Fantastic. Hey, everybody. My name is Eric King. I'm Director of Open Innovation with Nike Sustainability, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys to learn from you. You know, we in this group represent a bunch of different functions within the company, really trying to do more with waste, and it's been a long journey for us, and we're excited you guys are now part of that journey with us, and you know, really pumped to see what we can all do together.
Great, yeah. So hi everyone, this is so fun just to see everyone's faces up here. So great, makes it a reality. I am the director of the Nike Grind program, and I've been working with Nike Grind for about 5 years here at Nike, and so have more of a sense of the kinds of things that we've done with the Nike Grind in the past. So happy to you know, answer questions that you all have, and so excited to see the prototypes that you come up with. So thank you for being a part of this with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy Sloop. I'm the Director of Manufacturing Waste Program, and I'm really excited about all the proposals that you guys have put forward. It's super exciting to see all the innovation.
Hi guys, my name is Camila. I'm the product manager for Nike Grind. I've been focusing on making sure that you guys get all the materials to actually build out the prototype. So I hope all the packages are on their way and are delivered to you soon.
Hi guys, my name is Todd Williams. I'm an operations analyst on the Nike Grind team, so kind of helping out with everything. Really excited to see you guys' ideas and talk to them.
Hello, I'm Renee Huckemiller-Paradis. I'm a senior chemist in our Chemistry Center of Excellence, which sits here in Sustainable Business Innovation. And I'm here today to provide you any answers about chemistry-related questions and just give you a few tips about some of the chemistry things that Nike looks for.
Hey guys, super excited to kind of chat with everybody today. My name is Tim Schultze. I'm on the Nike Chemical Engineering team. Pretty focused on kind of our footwear manufacturing in Asia, so kind of where a lot of these waste materials start. And yeah, just excited to answer any kind of technical questions in the rubber and foam space mainly today for me.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We're pumped to talk to you, and we'll come back to us in a little bit. Chris, I'll turn it back over to you with the one quick caveat. If you guys hear some noise in the background, it's because it's World Cup, and France is playing right now, and there's a lot of people outside this room watching the game who are really pumped about it. I don't know about you, but I'm going for Peru.
Perfect. Yeah, Eric, I was just saying I was in Mexico this weekend for a friend's wedding, and in Mexico City they set off the seismology meters.
Yeah, we saw that. They got earthquake reports because they beat Germany. That's incredible.
Well, just wanted to give also, while we're all here, a big shout out to the Nike team that you're seeing in the room. So many of these folks have been really integral to the overall success of the challenge. Have been working so hard to make everything a reality for us. So I'm just wanting to give a shout out, and I think it's great that you're all able to see the faces sort of behind the scenes. So again, thanks for joining us. Perfect. So without further ado, I think, Eric, we want to jump right in, or do we want to do a round of intros with our innovators?
Yeah, let's do quick intros around the horn. Chris, you want to run that?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to set it over to grid view here, and I'm just going to start calling some folks out. So be ready to unmute your mic and give a little introduction. So let's start with David and Klaus. And David, be sure to unmute your mic.
Might be watching the World Cup.
Can you hear us?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it just took us a second to unmute the mic. David and Klaus here. We also, Taru is joining from another location. We are a team that is developing affordable housing that's both modular and rapidly deployable. And our plan is to use the Nike Grind for insulation in that building. So I'm from the US, Klaus is from the Netherlands, and Taru is from Finland. And we're really excited to look for innovative uses for this product.
Great.
Thanks.
Perfect. And Mario, you're up next.
Alrighty, what's going on, guys? I'm working with the Mafia Bags team that is doing the grind tiles, which, you know, very modular design, a lot of flexibility in where they go with that. So they're making good progress on the prototype. And just briefly about me, I'm finishing a master's program in product design at Northwestern here. Studied engineering in undergrad and headed back to Boston shortly. So this is the first opportunity I've had to kind of combine circular principles with design. So super excited that Nike kind of took the initiative with this, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, Mario. Julian, you're up next.
Hi everyone, I'm Julian. I'm from Germany, Stuttgart. We just lost against Mexico. I'm very sad. And yeah, I'm teaming up with Team Hedgemon. We want to use Nike Grind for transport cases. And yeah, currently having a lot of questions, and I hope we gonna be smarter after this webinar. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Julian. And for those of you who are on a PC, you can see in the chat, I shared out the order of introduction so you can sort of prepare. But Covington, you're up next.
I'm Covington from Dallas, Texas, and I'm working with Mark Way and Tammy Gretz on turning Nike Grind into weightlifting.
Excellent. Thanks, Covington. We're excited to see where you guys end up. And up next is Max.
Hi guys, so I'm calling from the sunny UK for once, and I'm a sustainable product designer, and we're experimenting with creating different composite materials for a circularly designed line of furniture, which kind of fits in with our approach as a company. I'm from Grebe, and yeah, it's great to see what Nike are doing and be a part of this pretty crazy project.
Thanks, Max. Mark, over to you.
All right, hey guys, how you doing? Mark from San Diego. I'm working with Covington and Tammy to develop Nike Grind bumper plates, and it's perfect timing too because I'm just learning how to do these deadlifts and all of that. So Tammy and our team is teaching us that, and it's an amazing journey. So thank you, Nike, for giving us this opportunity. And Covington, I like your haircut, man. You look good.
Awesome. And over to, and you're muted.
Can't hear you.
Oh, so I'm still having trouble hearing you. You're unmuted, but your mic may not be working on your headphones there. Okay, Saha, let's pause and we'll jump over and see if you can correct the mic issue. So let's jump over to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Thompson. Can you hear me, you guys?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I'm down in San Francisco, and I own a yoga mat company made of natural rubber. It's a compact travel yoga mat. So that's the context, and we're working on a meditation cushion, a yoga bolster, and some foam items, like so it would be a composite block and a ball, and but we're working on development and then also interviewing people as to what they think would be most interesting. So yeah, thanks for putting this together. It's been really fun to see the materials and work with them.
Awesome, thanks, Jessica. Sort of local Bay Area innovator, so always fun to see. And moving right along to Taru.
I'm Taru. My colleague already introduced me. I'm from the team who is focusing on housing for disadvantaged communities, and we are looking into ways to use Nike Grind in the housing product itself.
Excellent. Very excited to see your evolution. And moving on to Khan, I know you said you didn't have a mic, so you're going to write something. Perfect. So Khan wrote me a little intro. So Khan Surpursu, he doesn't have a mic today, but he's representing the team from Techmer PM. His team is located in the USA, in Tennessee, Clinton, Tennessee, Dalton, Georgia, and Los Angeles, California. They're working on the rubber regrind for recreational parkways with plastic master batch and compounding solutions. And they're very excited and thank us for the opportunity. Thanks, Khan. Perfect. And moving on to Anton.
Hi guys, I'm Anton from Stockholm, Sweden. I am the ear muff guy, grind ear muffs. And I'm really excited to work with it. I'm sort of super psyched about finding that sort of niche. Really like the product, and we've done a lot of prototyping and testing. Been experimenting with like silicone binders and polyurethane. And I'm really interested today to hear about like how to make things sturdy while working with like this rubber granulate, for example, like finishes and stuff like that. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. And moving on to Vishal.
Hi, am I audible to everyone?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Vishal. I'm calling from India, New Delhi specifically, and I'm working with a team named Chindi. We are creating lifestyle products out of Nike Grind. It's like the process is handmade crochet, and I'm working as a community prototyper with Chindi. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Vishal. Moving over to Nathan Swift.
Hey guys, this is Nathan Swift. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio with the Hedgemon team, and we're using Nike Grind rubber granulate to build hedgehog-inspired shock dampening liners for transport cases.
Excellent. Thanks, Nathan. And moving over to Bill.
Hi, Bill here, also from Team Hedgemon, but calling in from San Diego.
Awesome. And Manisha.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Manisha. I'm calling from New Delhi, India, and I'm one of the community prototypers. I'm a product designer, and I work on medical devices, and I'm paired with the team working on the Nike Grind surfboard, and that's really exciting to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're very excited to see that idea evolve. Perfect. And over to Tugji Karatas.
Hi everyone, it's Tuğçe Karataş from Turkey, west coast of Turkey. So I just ran away from Istanbul and enjoying my holiday in the west coast of Turkey. I teamed up with El Saha Laboni. I'm a product designer and creator, freelance creator. I'm working with the Turkish designers and running international projects with Turkish designers, emerging Turkish designers. And for this challenge, I teamed up, as I said, with Laboni from UK, London. She's gonna explain herself probably, but she wants to replace the plastic bags in a very fashionable way. And she's a fashion designer and entrepreneur, and she apparently works in the very same place that I used to work when I was in London, which is a super coincidence. We didn't know each other before. So I'm really happy with teaming up with her, and I look forward to seeing her process. And thanks for having us.
Great.
Moving right along. Perfect.
Hi guys, this is Ezgi. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm calling from Istanbul, and I'm also actually spending my holidays here in Turkey. And It's an interesting choice, I know. But not really. So my background is also in product design, and I work as a game designer. And unfortunately, the team that I was paired with was unable to move forward with the design challenge. So my skills are like all yours to pick from. So I'll be working with in other ways.
Excellent. Thanks, Ezgi. Great to have you on board. And moving along to, who do we have next? Shivani. And Shivani, there you go, unmuted. Shivani, still not hearing you. Your mic's unmuted, but not hearing you. Okay, Shivani, we're going to come back to you, so see if you can troubleshoot, or you can write me an introduction and I'll share it for you if you can't get it going. Perfect. So jumping right along to DNI Creatives.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Happy World Cup. I also have to mute my mic because it's in the background. So we are a collective of unique partners based out of Los Angeles, and we've actually partnered with a seating manufacturer, film director, packaging designer to create Nike Grind into stadium seating. So we're very excited to explore this option.
Excellent. And moving on right along to Shannon.
Hi there. I'm Shannon. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. I make recycled leather bags under the name Remade USA. And I had a crazy idea to make a surfboard. I'm not sure if it's going to work because the material is a lot denser than I expected, a lot heavier. Yeah, I'm really curious to see if this is
Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. I know we're all excited to hop on the Nike Grind surfboard when it's ready.
Yeah.
Perfect. And jumping on to Alicia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here on behalf of the Circular Cities team. There's 5 of us working together out of New York City. We met at various circular economy conferences and talks and paired up to work on this challenge. So we're designing, our initial proposal was bike lane delineator bumpers made out of the rubber granulate. We're talking about creating a whole family of city infrastructure that would be made out of the rubber and encourage people to walk and bike more to reduce emissions in cities, as well as recycling the material. So we're really excited to talk about materials with you today. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And moving right along to Ali.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ali. I work at an innovation and prototyping lab for a global financial services company. And my background is in digital design. I've always been interested in the circular world, and so I thought this would be a great opportunity to jump in and get acquainted with that. I have the pleasure and privilege to be working alongside Jessica of Yogo to help her think through and come up with the amazing work that she's doing with sustainable yoga gear.
Excellent. And Alicia, it looks like I put you twice, so let's have Doug introduce himself.
Hello. I don't know if my camera's working. This is Doug. I'm in Cleveland with Team Hegemon, and my background is in product design, sustainable design, and biomimicry.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug. And Bill.
If there's no other Bill, I think I'm the Bill that would
I think so, yeah. Oh, perfect. Bill, looks like we lost you. We had you for a moment. It looks like you're muted again.
I think Bill already introduced himself.
Yeah. Perfect. Apologies there. And Michael.
Yeah, my name is Michael. I work for a polyurethane foam manufacturing company, and what we're trying to do is use Nike Grime in a injected molded application.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Shivani, so I wrote you twice as well. Emily.
Hey guys, Emily here, taking the call from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm also part of Team Hegemon, working on the Hedgehog-inspired liner for transport cases.
Excellent. And up next we have Skylar.
Guys, Skylar here, calling in from Chicago, Illinois. You see the Cubs won yesterday, so we're proudly flying the W. Let's see, I'm a design engineer, and I'm working with the Nike Shell. So we're working on building out a sturdy and compact laptop case using the EVA foam.
Awesome. And Alex, you next. Alex, you with us? Alex Dustin?
Hi there. We are a small design firm in north of east of Italy. We are collaborating with an innovative manufacturer here in the north of east of Italy, and we are producing panels with recycled materials. We also operate with ham sheaves and other bio-derived materials. And we are also operating in bio buildings and to furniture or to commercial, interior commercial design development. And we are really proud to be here and be selected by this concourse. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex. And up next we have Jared.
Hey guys, excuse me. My name is Jared Byrne. Just recently graduated from Arizona State University with my master's degree. I'm currently a community prototyper, and I'm helping the Recover team based out of Canada.
Excellent. Thanks, Jared. Congrats on the newly acquired master's degree. And Jorge, you're up next.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody. I'm calling from Mexico. We are still riding the high from winning against So pretty excited. I'm with Industrias Marves. I'm in the research and development department. We do textile, foam, plastic bottle, that kind of stuff, recycling, return to fiber, and then we use them on a number of products for different markets, automotive, mattress, a lot of different industries. So we're looking into ways to integrate the Nike Grime materials into our current products and new products that we're developing right now.
Excellent. Thanks, Jorge. And Nicolo, you're up next.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Hey, my name is Nicolo Ballera. I'm Italian, and my teammate is Luca Antonioli. We are both from Milano, but currently living and working from Gothenburg, Sweden. Our project is Nike Sharing, and is a product service that triggers the end user to move for a good cause. And we are developing, for time being, tires for bicycles and all accessories such as saddles, handlebar grips, knee pads, helmets, and so forth. And our project works together with in this case, we use it as a reference, the Bike Town, bike sharing. And we develop also an app that will allow the user to interact in a good way with both bicycle and recycling, I would say.
Excellent. Thanks, Nicolo. And moving over to Dan. Dan, you still with us? There we go. Dan, Circular Cities, your mic's muted. Okay, we'll come back to you, Dan. Let's jump over to Kevin.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm Kevin. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I'm part of the Recover team, where we're trying to create furniture covers for any public spacing, stadiums, or any kind of seatings. And we're using the Nike Grime material as a cover, but also as a cushioning for the different seats.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. And Pete. Pete, looks like your mic is unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay, Pete, we'll come back to you if you're able to figure out the mic. And we did get a intro from Laboni. So Laboni is from Saha, and they're a women's wear brand based in London. They're proposing handmade recycled shoppers and shopping bags to replace the use of plastic bags while shopping. So thanks for sharing that intro, and we're excited to see how you progress. Perfect. And did we miss anyone? There were a couple phone numbers on calling in that we don't have names for. So if we missed you with an intro and you'd like to introduce yourself, jump right in. Okay, perfect. Well, looks like that covers our intros. We're getting our screen sharing started. Oh, perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, this is Rachel from Coraball. We make a microfiber catching laundry ball, and we have all of our fingers crossed that we can figure out how to do it with the Nike Grind rubber materials.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, we're excited as well. Covington's a fan as well. Kind of love your positive comments in the chat. Excellent. Anyone else who didn't get a chance to introduce themselves? Okay. Perfect. So we will jump right over into sharing the screen and getting our workshop deck set up. But in the meantime, if you could all just make sure to remute your microphone so that we can give our full attention to the Nike team as they present this information. It looks like we had an intro come in from Pete. So Pete's from Boulder, Colorado with Sustainable Materials. They're working on 3D tiles and other products. And so they're excited to learn more about the process and questions that people ask. So thanks, Pete. Appreciate that. And just a really wonderful cohort. I don't know if you all have joined an Open IDEO Challenge before, but it's pretty amazing to hear where in the world everyone's from and calling in from. So it's pretty incredible what you're all being a part of and the energy you're putting forth into this truly global sort of problem-solving initiative. So we really appreciate your attention and energy there. Okay, perfect. And let's see if we can troubleshoot and get our deck up here. Okay, perfect. So we're going to be running it off a PDF today, so you'll see the little slides there in the corner, but hopefully that's not too much of a distraction. And we'll hand it over to the Nike team and we'll cycle through.
Sure, thanks, Chris. Yeah, you know, we're really excited to walk you guys through. So what we're going to do here is, we check out the next slide there. We just hop into the agenda. So we already did introductions. We're going to go over just a few basics to try to level set on a few things that, you know, hopefully will address a lot of the questions we've already received. And then, and so we'll kind of walk you guys through that. We'll try to do that as quickly as we can so that we can get to Q&A at the end. So have your questions ready. So let's hop in.
You should have received probably by yesterday our Nike Grind technical data sheets. They've been designed for you guys to make sure that there's a good understanding of what our materials are and how they behave. So on these technical data sheet, you see a general description of how they could potentially be used, how they what the characteristics are, how they look like. And then on the second page, you see of each of the materials, so the rubber, the EVA, and the PU foams, on what the actual properties are of these materials. We hope that this provides you enough information to answer most of your questions, but again, if you have additional questions, please let us know, obviously today or by any other way.
So I was just going to walk through some of the common questions that tend to come up. And so just to level set on some of the fundamentals here. So one of the things that often comes up is I want to melt down the EVA and rubber and re-extrude it. So just as you think about how you're going to use some of these materials, just keep in mind the EVA and rubber, they're already cross-linked materials. So just that is one piece that seems to, as much as we put that out there, that question keeps coming back to us. So I want to start with that one. Another question that comes up is around processing capability for these materials. And so that you're aware, the rubber is the only one where we actually have a processor who can take that either from its raw form, which is a rubber outsole or a flashing from an outsole, and you could take it in that unprocessed form, or we can granulate it down. And you'll see that on the technical data sheet that Camila referred to. That rubber can come in various sizes. For all the other materials, they come in the original scrap form. So we don't have the processing capability to take, let's say, leather or our PU laminated foam. This is our PU laminated foam. It comes in the form that it comes in. So if you are welcome to process it down. You do not have to use it in the form that it comes in. But just be aware that rubber is the only one where we actually have the ability to process it down to a smaller form for you. The other misconception often is that the textiles are large rolls of textiles, and they're not. They're offcuts from the processing of punching out the upper of the shoe or component parts. So just be aware of that. These aren't large pieces. Although some of our mixed textile uppers are the full upper. So the other thing to keep in mind is that, as you've probably figured out from our last webinar, the Nike Grind material is coming from mostly our manufacturing scrap, and that material has never been assembled into a shoe, and therefore it is purely the leather or purely the foam or purely the EVA or purely the PU foam. It may have lamination to it, but it's not actually been made into a shoe yet. So that material is more pure in that sense. Post-consumer fluff, the textile fluff, was the only material in here that comes from shoes that have already been made, granulated, and then separated back out. So that's another question we get a lot. And then definitely refer to the, we have both safety data sheets and technical data sheets. We have, as Camila said, sent you the technical data sheets as a starting place. That has the most, what we felt like was the most useful information for you. We have some material experts here today who can answer some other questions, but if for any reason you also wanted a safety data sheet, we're happy to send that to you by request.
Cool, so this next slide is probably something that everyone cares about a lot as far as the price of the material. So we've kind of laid out the different dependencies on what would affect the price of the material instead of giving solid straight up prices, just because it does change so much based on what you're looking for specifically. So it's really going to depend on what you guys require based on the type of material, because we offer the wide variety of materials, and then what you guys can commit to as far as order volume ahead of time, because if you guys are just looking for small amounts every so often, it's going to be a lot harder for us to source those than if you tell us up front that you want 100,000 kilograms or whatnot of your material. So a good just kind of ballpark range if you guys are thinking about it. So for a processed rubber that would be processed to like our finest mesh would be around 70 cents. It really does depend on how much processing you guys want and the purity of the material. So we have the post-consumer and the pre-consumer material. But maybe a ballpark number for you to work with would be 70 cents for the super fine mesh. And then for other materials, it could be half of that. So for EVA or textile scraps, it could be around 30 to 35 cents. And all these really do vary on these things that we've laid out here.
And these are, by the way, also by per kilogram, not per pound. So about half of that per pound for those of you in the audience who think in pounds.
Yes, about 70 cents per kilogram for the fine mesh.
And then if you had the largest granulated size of rubber, it's probably half that. So again, it depends on the amount of processing. As you can imagine, more energy and labor goes into processing things to a smaller size, and materials that aren't processed at all have much lower prices.
So the next kind of piece of cost would be your material shipping. So this is also dependent on where you guys are located and how far you guys are located away from your local port. So you have to think of the costs of getting it from our facility to port, and then from that port to the port nearest you, and then from that port to your front door. So as an example, we gave that to the East Coast, it can be around $3,000 just to the port. So for the ocean container shipment, then from there, however much, depending on the distance of trucking within the US, the West Coast is typically a little cheaper to LA, around $2,500. And then it can get a lot more expensive if you're going through the Great Lakes in Michigan. And of course, if you're going to Europe, that's a little bit closer. So that kind of all depends. The other thing to think about would be the max weight that you can fit into a container. So some of you guys might be sourcing multiple different materials. So we would situate it so that it would be a mix in the container so that you can hit the max weight of the container. But if you're just sourcing an EVA or a foam, it's going to be difficult to hit the max weight of the container because of your density. So we would have to figure that out with you guys as far as the best way to ship to you.
Yeah, let me just jump in here and say, so a lot of this information we want to provide you guys as clearly as we can, so you can develop robust business plans as part of your final submission for the challenge. So don't sweat the details too much here. We can sort that out on a one-on-one basis as we move forward, and as we move into kind of the post-challenge phase. What we're really excited about is looking to you guys for ideas on how we can use these materials better moving forward. And we're just trying to kind of give you the full picture of what that might look like, so we can build a sustainable plan on how to do that together. Next slide, Chris, thanks.
All right, so some chemistry do's and don'ts, everyone's favorite subject on a late night or early morning. So Nike does have a restricted substance list, and this restricted substance list, or RSL, is based on worldwide global regulations for us to be able to meet market access, be able to sell in every country. So we only create one product to be able to sell globally. So any product we make needs to be able to meet all the regulations throughout the world. The full RSL is available on the Nike Chemistry website, but I just want to highlight a few things. So all the materials you're receiving are RSL compliant, so you don't have to worry about that. But the things you should consider is when you're adding new materials, in particular things like adhesives or other materials that might have some of these chemistries which are on Nike's RSL. And then, looking at the formulations of any added materials on SDSs should give you a good hint, but sometimes it's not completely sufficient. So reviewing that list, and if you have questions, we're happy to answer those. I want to point out just a few chemistries that are not on the RSL that Nike has identified for phase out that you might run into in some of your projects I've heard about. One of them's PVC. Nike's committed to not using any PVC in this products. Another one are PFCs, or durable water repellents. We've committed to phasing out of PFCs and use the durable water repellents by 2022. And so I want to make sure that folks are aware of that. This is looking at the RSL requirements are on the final product. So if a chemical is used in the processing or manufacturing and it doesn't end up on the final product, that is okay, or if it's below the restriction levels. But like I said, more details on this can be found on the Nike Chemistry website.
And if you have any questions about where, just Google Nike restricted substances list and it'll pop up. It's really easy to find it.
Thanks, Renee. Next slide, Chris. So, so we wanted to make sure that you guys, have a clear picture of what, we're looking for from the final submissions. Really, what we want to see in whatever form makes sense for you and your ideas and your prototypes. Some demonstration of what that product is and how it's using Nike Grind is ultimately what we're after. We're really excited to showcase the ideas that you guys are coming up with and the way that you're making those ideas a reality. And we're expecting to elevate the visibility on your ideas to a pretty high level within Nike leadership. So we're going to be walking executives through what you're creating. And so we just want you to think about that as you're coming up with the materials that you're going to send us, whether they're physical prototypes, videos, explanations, visual aids, whatever that is. We want it to be something that really can depict the full idea and how it would be realized in a relatively quick and easy way. And so if you're making something big and you can only send us a component, or if you're making something complex and you can only send us a more simple sample, that's fine. But make sure that we have what we need to really interpret that relatively quickly. Because as I said, we're going to be walking some folks through this, and we really want to do the best we can to showcase these ideas in a way that, frankly, gets people excited here. You guys are, as I said earlier, you guys are part of this journey now, and making, circularity a reality is something that we're looking to you to help us do. So, we can talk a little bit more about that maybe later if you guys have any questions on that, but hopefully that kind of conveys, ultimately what we're after here. Chris, I think this is you.
Excellent. Perfect. So we are pretty excited to share this news with you. We heard what you were asking and realized that with logistics around shipping and other similar complications, and of course just the amount of time I think that you all were saying you needed in order to effectively prototype, which we certainly understand. We've extended the deadline to July 31st at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So certainly you are more than welcome to submit at the predetermined, earlier deadline of July 16th. But if you do need that extra time, we certainly want to make sure that you have it and that we'll be supporting you along the way. So it gives us about 40 days until the shipping deadline there. And again, all physical prototypes and materials must be postmarked by end of day 5 p.m. on July 31st. And so as we've mentioned before, prepaid labels, we'll be providing those for your prototypes. Remember the size restrictions. We were discussing about 1 meter by 1 meter squared. Certainly let us know if there are any specific asks around that size restriction, but generally plan for around that size, and make sure to let us know if you plan to ship a physical prototype on the 20th so that we can prepare and get you that shipping. Again, so as we shared on our earlier webinars on logistics and sort of just the overall challenge rundown, you're certainly not required to ship a physical prototype to us. As Eric mentioned earlier, we're really excited to get some of those prototypes in front of Nike executives and some of our judges, but you're certainly more than welcome to share those prototypes in visual form, in photos or diagrams,
models, or even videos. We'll welcome all of that. So winners will be notified in late August, and Nike will publicly announce the winners in September. So again, hopefully that's good news for some of you, and an exciting extension. And again, if you want to stick to the earlier deadline, no problem there, but we just want to make sure you've got time to innovate. So happy to accommodate. Excellent, and we'll jump right into the Q&A. So a couple of you have pre-submitted questions on those forms, or many of you, and we thank you for that. We've also been fielding and logging your questions that you all have been sending us directly via email and in our conversations and chats over the past couple of weeks. So we've pulled out some of the high-level ones, and then we'll also have an opportunity to ask some questions just directly at the end of the session. Perfect. So the first question is, can Nike provide any details on the adhesive properties, melting properties of the materials?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I can. Hey guys, I can start out on this one a little bit. I can speak specifically to the rubber and foam. So as we talked about earlier, those don't melt necessarily or fuse because they are cross-linked. In terms of what adhesives we use on those, I think generally Nike uses what we call water-based adhesives in Asia most of the time. We do use some kind of partially solvent-based adhesives also, but I'll just say broadly, we don't need to do anything crazy, right? So we don't need to use some super special adhesive to glue our materials together. It's usually doable with readily available materials. I don't know if you guys want to speak a little bit to the upper textile a little bit. I mean, kind of the adhesives piece goes for the upper, kind of the PU coated materials, the polyester materials, the meshes, kind of same thing applies for the adhesives there. Of course, some of those can melt down a little bit, but again, not something we commonly do, but definitely something worth trying.
Experience bonding.
And the technical data sheet should have some more of that information, right, for the specific.
Yeah, the technical data sheet should have a little bit more information, but I would just say if there are specific questions that aren't answered between the technical data sheet and some of the stuff we've done on the webinars, shoot a question through to IDEO, they'll get it to us, and we'll get specific answers back to you. So for example, if you're looking for something more specific about what curing agents we use or whatever, we're happy to field specific questions to your specific team.
Excellent. Thanks all. And we'll jump into the next question. So what is rubber granulate's base formula? Rubber type, vulcanization agent, etc.
All right, I'll give it another go. So a couple things here. So the vulcanization agent, or basically what we use to kind of cross-link our rubber, most of our rubbers, or kind of 95% of our rubbers, are sulfur cured. So that kind of answers that question. Our clear rubbers are peroxide cured, but I think most of the grind, like I said, 95, 98% is from sulfur cured rubber. Rubber type. Our formulations are kind of a combination of different synthetic rubbers. So we do use a little bit of natural rubber, but in really small amounts. So I think, again, broadly, we can say that it's kind of a blend of 2 to 3 synthetic rubbers that we use. So that pretty much covers that one.
So we were having a side conversation here. Just in terms of that last question, if the question was more to what adhesives would be appropriate for them to use in creating new products with Nike Grind as opposed to what we use in our product, then just in our experience, I think it's actually a pretty similar answer. In our experience, the Nike Grind has really lended itself well to kind of combining with pretty standard adhesives, binders, polyurethane in kind of composite or compression molding. So For example, some of these, let me see, I think we have some of these, like some of the fitness flooring and things like that have essentially taken a combination of other types of rubber. In this case, it's an SBR rubber, but they've used like an EPDM or a recycled EPDM and mixed in Nike Grind. And then there's just a standard binder in there. And that's just goes through compression. So that's pretty typical. And then obviously in like turf fields and stuff, it's essentially a loose fill. And I'm trying to think, playgrounds and tracks is similarly kind of a granulated rubber mixed in with a polyurethane binder. But as we get outside of sports applications, that's part of the innovation that we're working on with you. So we'd love to hear what you're running up against and what specific questions you have. But injection molding has been something that we haven't seen work to date just because of that cross-linking.
Excellent. Thanks, Peggy. We'll jump into the next question. So are more Nike Grind materials available for this stage of the challenge?
Yeah, so kind of in assessing this question, assumingly the question is, are there more volumes available? And that would just contact us on if you need a larger amount, or if you weren't sent enough, or if there's an issue with that, and we can work that out. It might depend on what type of material or current inventory status. As far as more Nike Grind different types of materials, the current selection is our total selection of materials that we made available already. So you guys have already looked at the different variety of materials.
Excellent. That's great to know. So do keep that in mind as you're prototyping. Perfect. And so another question we've been getting quite a bit is my team wants to work on the branding of their product and include the Nike logo on their prototype and in their renderings. Does Nike want their logo used for challenge projects or not?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So we could actually, I think for the purposes of the prototyping, you might have an opinion on the Nike brand, but we could certainly provide to you the Nike Grind trademark and logo. So if you go to NikeGrind.com, you'll see what our Nike Grind trademark and logo looks like, and that does have the swoosh embedded in that. So that might be fun to provide to you all for use exclusively in the development of the prototype. That wouldn't obviously be something that you'd have the rights to use on an ongoing basis in any way, but for the use of the development of the prototype for then sharing with our executives, I think that might be a fun idea.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, so if you guys, maybe we could shoot out a note with those logo images.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Excellent. That's pretty cool. Perfect. And so, we wanted to open it up. We've got some time here and open it up to some of the questions that you all have in response to some of the information that you've heard today, in response to those technical sheets that you were provided with, which had a lot of info to react to. But let's start with the question that Max has asked in the chat. Max has asked, are the sample materials we've received realistic to the materials that will be available post-competition? For example, some of the granulate rubber we've received has certain oddities, such as larger pieces of rubber mixed in with finer meshes. Is this to be expected, and how to proceed there?
Yes, so they should be representative. If there was an anomaly in there, our team can help figure that out. If you wanted to just take a picture of what you're seeing that seems anomalous to you, then send that through to the IDEO team. They'll get that to us. We'll take a look at it, and we can tell you whether that's representative or whether there was a problem there. But all of those samples should have been representative of the material you would receive.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate or to highlight this idea, it is important that the proposals, the products that you guys are putting forth are tolerant to some extent to variability in the specifics of the material. As this is, we're looking at is trying to use waste to do more. we do need to find solutions that don't require very precise specifications on those materials, because there always will be some variation.
Yeah. So typically we'll see, for example, like with a 10 to 30 mesh rubber or something like that. We have received feedback in the past, like, in this particular sample we got, there was a little bit too much that fell under the 10 size, right? Like a little bit too much or over the 30. So a little bit too much powder relative to what they were expecting. Or the last batch we received had a lot more black in it. And this batch we received had a lot more color in it. Well, that's just due to the variability of that season's color palette of rubber. That's what this season we're doing a lot of orange, or this season we're doing a lot of pink. So that variability in color will be there as well.
Awesome, thanks, Peggy.
I'd add one thing, which is there's kind of two sources of variability. One is the material itself coming out of the factories, and then the other is if you're requesting a processed material, it could depend on on who is processing it, what their capabilities are, and so forth. So if you want to have more control over it, it's best to get it in an unprocessed form, and you could arrange for your own processing where you know exactly what that processing capability is.
Or to order from the same geo. So if we have one processor in Indonesia and one processor in Vietnam and a number of other processors in China, if you are prototyping with, or if you're using material from the same location each time, there's less likelihood that you're going to get variability because they have the same machine producing it.
Yeah, and so bottom line, for the purpose of the challenge, let's just make sure that if there are certain needs, if you received a sample and only a subset of the materials in that sample actually work for the process you guys are developing, the product you're innovating, just let us know, and we can sort out together how to move forward in a longer term way.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent, thanks, Saul. And just a reminder to participants, if you could mute your mics, so that way it has the Nike team front and center here. So another question that we received from Jessica, who wanted to confirm, does the grind have both hydrocarbon and natural rubber inside of it?
Hydrocarbon.
And Jessica, feel free to jump in and clarify that question.
Yes.
It's both synthetic and
it's both synthetic and natural. The majority of it is synthetic rubber, but there is natural rubber also in those formulations. So
maybe the one other piece there is, I know tire companies use carbon to kind of as a filler in their rubber. We do not use carbon as a filler. We use a silica filler. So that might be kind of also where that question was coming from. So those are the two.
Okay, perfect. And Jessica, you'd asked another question around, what was it, FOB? Is that, I think, free on board for shipping?
Yes. Do you guys want to answer the question about what FOB is?
Yeah, freight on board or Ex-Works are both conditions that we can work through or discuss for the material.
Yeah, so freight on board meaning that there's two ways to essentially price shipping. One is where the material supplier gets it to their local port, and then freight on board is basically you're taking it from port to your final destination. Ex-Works just means that you're arranging from shipping all the way from the original location to the port and then to yourself. So the FOB just excludes that initial transportation from the source location to the local port. Or that's a way to think about it.
Cool. And so that's it. Jessica, did you have a follow-up there? Or?
Yeah, hi guys. The question was just a curiosity as to logistically, we'd be picking these up FOB wherever they're being processed.
FOB or Ex-Works. So you could be arranging, your logistics carrier could be arranging to pick it up from the actual processing center. Let's say they're picking it up from the processing center in Vietnam. They would pick it up from the processing center, they get it to port, and they get it to all the way to your final destination. Or the processors could get it to the port in Ho Chi Minh, and then your carrier would be responsible for it from there.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so Jorge had a question around whether or not they could ship multiple prototypes to simulate the use of the product. For example, could they send a molded piece, a flat piece, a piece with die cut, etc.?
Yeah, I think within the bounds of the you know, the shipping restrictions that we put, the guide rails we put there, that's fine.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Jorge. Perfect. And DNI Creatives asked, could a life cycle analysis be provided for each material and its prefabricated state?
I'm not sure exactly where the question's coming from. Like, you're looking for each of these materials, like an LCA for this? What's been embedded in it to date?
Mm-hmm. And DNI Creatives, feel free to jump in and clarify.
We do have information on other energy and water use for each of those materials, but saying we have a full LCA for each of them, we have to check on that. Depends on what kind of information you're trying to get from the LCA.
Yeah. So we, in general, are measuring our carbon, our water, and our chemistry use in the production of any of these materials. So if that's what you're interested in, we can try to answer some questions around the embedded carbon, water, and chemistry in any of these materials. We try to actually kind of get pretty deep with that in a way that we found that some LCA models are based on kind of genericized data that doesn't actually get to kind of that sophisticated level of understanding what the environmental impact is of the material production.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. And just adding to this, I think it's just beneficial for everyone involved to just understand the material implications as is, because this is a sustainable project. And if we're carrying over these same attributes into our product, then we're kind of responsible for that. So it would be very beneficial for all of us to know this information.
Yeah, yeah. We're pretty proud of the work that goes in upstream in the supply chain to minimize our footprint when it comes to carbon, water, and chemistry with the production of the materials, and waste efficiency upstream in the supply chain. So if there are more specific questions about that, we're happy to answer those.
And then would we contact Chris through IDEO for those?
For any specific questions, I would contact Chris, and then they forward those, they triage those out to us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. And sort of on that note, we had a question around what's the process for manufacturing waste to final Nike Grind material? For example, are there any cleaning or chemical baths done?
I don't think so.
No, but it is. But what we can say is that we have a rigorous sorting protocol at each factory, and that's been validated by our field people who go out to the factory. And we have very clear definitions for what's supposed to go into each material type. So that's really the primary means of quality control on the material, and then we don't do any post-treatment of it other than mechanical processing on the rubber material as described earlier in the webinar here.
Excellent. And there's a question around how do you currently make grind products waterproof or weatherproof, if at all?
Do you want to take that one? Waterproofing? We don't, okay, so there's sort of a two thing. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about our position on waterproofing for our own products. then we don't produce the Nike Grind products that exist today that you can see on the NikeGrind.com website are not products that we produce. So we are a raw material supplier to them, just like we are with you all in this process. So they are required by contract that all of their products are produced in a responsible way that is compliant with whatever the regulatory standards are for their industry. So we're not experts in sort of, let's say, playground safety, but we require that the playground company that we work with is compliant with anything that they are going to put Nike Grind in and use the Nike Grind trademark and logo in association with. We want to make sure that they are adhering to fall height safety standards, chemical safety standards, Prop 65, anything that they are required to do, and they have to be sending us information to say we are in compliance with whatever the regulatory standards are for safety for our industry.
I think this question is probably related to the point that I brought up, the PFCs and durable water repellents, I'm thinking. We still do have PFCs in some of our products, but we have committed to phasing those out by 2022. So any incoming projects, we would look for them to be PFC free. There are alternatives for durable water repellents that don't use PFCs, and there's other ways to make things water resistant. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, perfect. And let's see, is the fabric grind segregated at the fabrication facility in terms of color or textile? And what do we need it to do afterwards? So that was a question from Vishal, so feel free also to clarify there.
Yeah, so just confirmation or clarification on that. You're asking about the textile, right? Okay. Yeah. So no, it is. We have a textile category of waste, and so it includes multiple kinds of textiles, and they're not color segregated. If we were doing a long-term project with you, like let's say you're successful and it scales, we could look at working with the factories to do some custom segregation of the material. But what I just described is the current state. So no, it's not color segregated or by subcategory within the textile category.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. We got a question from Anton, and we think we've shared the answer prior, but he asks, is it possible to request a specific color of rubber granulate?
We can tag team that one. So we can't, as you would imagine, if you look at the rubber outsoles of any of these shoes, as I mentioned earlier with the seasonal color palette, they're coming in all sorts of colors. So those rubber outsoles are not segregated by color. What we have done for some partners in the past is if they're looking for an overall light effect or an overall dark effect, so you would imagine there's white, there's black, and there's a whole mix of colors. And so what they have done is pulled out all the black rubber outsoles to create an overall white plus color effect. And they've done the opposite, which is to pull out all of the white outsoles and have an overall darker effect, so black plus color. So that is possible for segregation for rubber, but not actual like all the green, all the yellow, all the orange.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is we are interested in developing new applications and are willing to work with you on segregating, but there's sort of a practical limit to it because we're working with a lot of factories. And there's some dynamics involved, and so we don't want to like get into a lot of really small custom sorts. So what I would say is, send your specific question or kind of ideal material requirement through IDEO, and we can take a look at it and see what's possible for, you know, for this stage in the process, you know, versus later on. But so can't make any guarantees, but have a willingness to work with you.
Excellent. That's great to know. And Lauren, I think you had a couple questions that you had collected from folks.
Yes, definitely. So we have one question coming in from Kevin around the EVA scraps. He's wondering, does the EVA scrap have the same percentage of VA? Do they come from the same factory or from different factories?
I can take the VA piece. So no, they'll have a slightly different percentage, but I think again for the EVA scrap, it shouldn't have a huge impact since it is already kind of a finished and foamed good that at that point, I guess the VA kind of contributes to the density. So maybe some of the material's a little lighter, some of it's a little heavier, but in terms of like visual difference because of the VA content or kind of forming of the material because of the VA content, I wouldn't expect it to have a huge impact because it's different, but it's not like this different. It's more kind of working within a smaller range. And then the other part of the question was,
does it all come from the same factory?
Does it all come from the same factory? No. So like we've been talking, we work with a lot of different factory partners, so it comes from lots of different sources.
So these streams are, I mean, in general, they're being sourced from 54 different factories spread across multiple countries. So yeah, there's going to be some variation in there, and so really, as to the point that Eric made earlier, really you need to be designing to accommodate, to have some tolerance for variation.
Great. And we also had another question come in about the technical data sheets and SDS regarding the fluff materials, and if that's something that will be accessible to participants.
For the short time, I think the short answer is no, it's not accessible currently. There's a little bit more difficulty with supplying a technical data sheet for the fluff because of the extreme variability within the textile and fluff category with the rubbers and the EVAs. And hopefully we highlighted this a little bit, but those technical data sheets shouldn't necessarily be referred to as the Bible, so to speak. They should be, these are the general characteristics because these materials are coming from so many different streams. We've kind of highlighted and researched and tried to give it a representative of what the rubber or the foams are. But for the fluff and the textile, currently, because there's so many different major categories and products going into our apparel streams and the uppers of the shoes, it's still in process on whether or not we can commit to a certain range of technical data.
And Tim, is the fluff post-consumer or is that pre-consumer?
The fluff is post-consumer, but there's also mixed textile scrap for both footwear and apparel, and those are pre-consumer.
Excellent. Great. That was a question we had as well. Perfect. Well, I know we've got probably no shortage of questions. So those listening in, please do continue to add them to the chat. But, you know, I would also love, while we're all here, would be curious just to hear how prototyping's going. And so for some of those folks that have already gotten their hands on the materials and started playing around with things, you know, have we seen anything unexpected or surprising about the materials as you're starting to explore them? So I know some of the teams have received their materials and jumped in. We saw a couple of pretty cool updates from a couple of the teams via email. So if anybody wants to share anything that they've been experiencing in terms of prototyping that would benefit everyone to know, we'd love to hear that. And feel free just to unmute your mic and jump in.
And Chris, Chris, just while people are unmuting themselves and jumping in, I also want to make sure that we answered the waterproofing question, like that was asked earlier, that we kind of got to interpreting that question correctly. So if somebody is asking more, could we essentially waterproof the end product, and what has our experience been with our other partners waterproofing their products, or whether these are products that are appropriate for outdoor usage. I'm happy to make sure we got that question answered.
Great. Yeah. So who? Let's see.
I was asking it in terms of, because the product that we were. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because the team that I'm paired with are looking at surfboards, so I was just trying to understand how on the end product could that be made water repellent or resistant, so that like in the activity it doesn't get damaged.
Yeah. Well, so we definitely have had experience with folks using the Nike Grind in outdoor applications, whether that's outdoor tracks or outdoor fields, outdoor basketball courts. We've looked at some things to do with kind of grip tape type applications, skateboard applications. So it seems to work quite well. There's no problem. And obviously our shoes are made to be worn outdoors. And so yeah, that has not been an issue at all. In terms of the bind, you basically got the mixing of the rubber, which is appropriate to be used outdoors, with a polyurethane binder, which is appropriate to be used outdoors. In some cases, like a silica, that's appropriate to be used outdoors. So not a problem. But depending on your application, if you're talking about, spraying on waterproofing agent after the fact, that would just be something where you would just want to refer to our restricted substances list to make sure whatever you're adding on after the fact is kind of meets with our chemistry standards. Does that help?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Excellent. And then we had a question from Jessica who asked, does the fluff weight and general mix weight vary? And there's a follow on, is the fluff washed?
Does the weight vary?
Maybe
slightly. The fluff might vary slightly if it has a slightly higher component or proportion of the EVA mixed in there, and the EVA is a little heavier than the fluff, the textile. But not, sort of like you said, not dramatically. Like it might vary, minimally. And then the other question was, is it washed before it's granulated? Is that what you're saying?
See?
Hello.
Yeah.
The fluff is post-consumer, right? So it's, if I understood correctly, so it's is it? Right, it's from the recycled shoes. Is that right? Or maybe I misunderstood.
It's from a combination of consumer take-backs, so post-consumer shoes that are not washed, and our own samples, defects, and returns, which are defective finished product that can't be sold for some reason and can't be re-commerced. A lot of our sample defect return that can be, if it can be re-commerced, then that's re-commerced. If there's something that truly shouldn't be out there on a person's foot because it's got some defect here where it's not safe to be wearing, then that is also granted, but that is essentially a new, like that wouldn't need to be washed because it hasn't been worn. So it's a combination of the two.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Tammy chatted that she would maybe want to share some of her prototyping experience. Tammy, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. I joined late, but we were able to get the material pretty quickly. We are working on Nike Grind Olympic weightlifting plates. I happen to know a couple of the people in the Columbus area with Rogue, and I reached out to them and they thought it was a pretty good idea, and they put me in contact with the person that makes the Rogue plates, and they've been playing with the material, and basically what we're working on is trying to figure out is it durable, and is the Nike rubber as durable as the vulcanized tire rubber. And the couple of questions that, you know, I think he said that we're using a single component urethane for the binding of the material. And I think one of the other things he mentioned was that the silicone is creating a very greasy outside to the plate. But other than that, it's been a pretty good experience. We have 5 different types of prototype, but nothing that we can really test with because they're all different. So it's a pretty cool experience so far.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And we got a question from Alicia who asked about binders. And so she said it was mentioned that rubber flashings and granulate work well with most standard polyurethane binders. And is there information about the binders that partner companies are using for playgrounds or some of the other surfaces? And do trace amounts of those cured polymers inhibit adhesion in second life?
That's a great question. We can ask our partners what specific polyurethane binders they're using, if that would be helpful. And sorry, the second question again?
And are there trace amounts of cured polymers that inhibit adhesion in second life? So I think from the original source.
Potentially, I mean, especially, I mean, actually in both cases, in the grind and in the flashing, I mean, it could be that the rubber would need to be, depending on what you're using to bind it, you may need to kind of clean the rubber a little bit, but a lot of times, since you're like only using a small amount and binding it with other material and so much of the binder, it's not an issue. I mean, you might run into it, but I wouldn't say it's super common.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. And Jorge shared an update in the chat here. He said they've been mixing foams with fiber for their prototypes, working on getting a good foam and fiber mix due to grinding the foam to different sizes. And an update from Jorge is the lab smells like new sneakers, but so far, so good. Great. Excellent. So perfect. Well, and Shannon asked about just now, eco-friendly. That was the last question here from Shannon. She asked, were there any eco-friendly PU binders that Nike knows of or would advocate for?
I don't know. We could certainly, again, ask our partners who are using the grind and using PU binders. I just don't know.
Yeah. But I'd assume anything with like a bio-based polyol in the binder, that's probably as eco-friendly as it's going to get in that space. But I think people would advertise that, you know, if you guys have a vendor you're working with, then they would advertise that they're using a bio-based polyol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I think also for our innovators, it's worth keeping in mind that this is such an edge space, right? You all are really innovating an entirely new frontier here in repurposing materials, and really want to commend you all on your adherence and prioritization of sort of eco-friendly and circular and sustainability metrics within your design. So I think we're also looking to and eager to learn from you all in some of the research that you're able to do as you're talking with vendors and experimenting with materials. Yeah, I think it's a pretty neat space that we're all going to be innovating in here together. So please do continue to send us questions. Again, that's circular@ideo.com with any questions that goes directly to Lauren and myself. So we'll field those and run them through with the Nike team and make sure that we're prioritizing those big questions for you all as you continue on the prototyping process. So just to wrap up, I wanted to reiterate that we have extended the deadline. So again, hopefully there are some smiles in the room when we shared that. I think it'll be helpful to everyone to get that extra time to innovate. And again, winners will be notified in late August. Do let us know around when you plan to ship your physical prototype. Let us know by about July 20th so we can get those shipping labels out to you all. And then again, we'll be looking for postmarked materials by 5 p.m. July 31st. And of course, the questions that you have in the refinement survey, so questions around business model and scale, those will be due at that same time. So July 31st at 5 p.m. And as we get closer to that date, we'll share that link so that you can access that form again. But feel free to look back at the email we sent you, the congratulations email, which houses all of those content links that you can explore. So perfect. So once again, feel free to email us with any questions. We're here to support as you continue on for the next 40 days. We can't iterate enough that we're just so thrilled to see how you evolve over these next few weeks. Really, really excited to see your prototypes coming in. And any closing words from Nike team?
Yeah, sure. I would just echo, Chris, what you just said. I think the bottom line here is that what you guys are doing is new. So, welcome to the frontier and thanks for helping us get there. It's hard. Like, this is an inherently difficult problem. We're talking about, defining Nike Fluff. I mean, these are really, this is a challenging topic area. And I think that's why, the wealth of and diversity of ideas that you guys are bringing to the table is so important. And so let's keep working, let's not give up and some problems are hard because they're hard. And what's the old cliche, if it wasn't hard, then it would have been solved already.
Yeah.
So here we are doing it. And so we're just pumped to be, doing it with you guys. And so as Chris said, we're excited to see what you can do in the next few weeks and let us know how we can help you do that. So thanks guys for joining us and thanks to the Nike team. Thanks Chris and thank you everybody for being with us.
Excellent. Thanks all for joining. We'll see you on the circular at IDEO.com and also on the platform. Keep us posted as you progress.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Bye.